Another round of the 2024 NBA playoffs are officially in the books, and that means it's once again time to look back at each series and reflect on the good, the bad, and all of the in-between. With the conclusions of each series, there has obviously been notable takeaways from each one, but for today's video, just like we did after the first round, we will be going through the biggest winners and the biggest losers from the second round. These are the players, teams, or anything else involved that either benefited the most or suffered the most, with the impact of all of them landing on each list going beyond simply their production on the court, but also taking into account the ramifications of these results. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. Starting this off with the first big winner of the first round, we have Tyrese Haliburton of the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers went down 2-0 to start this series off against the New York Knicks, which essentially resulted in them being written off by the majority of the NBA community. Hell, I'd be lying if I said I didn't think the series was going to end quickly in the favor of the Knicks after that too. Haliburton was the season's leading assister this year, and overall had a stellar season, but his overall production was starting to take a noticeable hit at the end of the year, and to that point, he had also been having a pretty pedestrian postseason, which included scoring just 6 points in Game 1 of this series. So rightfully, people were starting to question if Haliburton's game was built for important series like this. Well, from that point forward, Haliburton stepped up and quieted all doubters, turning the series completely around, with a 35-point outing in Game 3 to swing the momentum, steady, locked-in play in their blowout win in Game 4 and their comfortable win in Game 6, then in Game 7 tonight, when the team's stars are needed more than ever, he controlled the game from the opening tip-off and knocked down 6 3-pointers en route to a 26-point game to send his Pacers to the conference finals. Now over to the first big loser of the second round this year, we have Tom Thibodeau, coach of the New York Knicks. Now of course, as I just went over, Haliburton balled out and deserves a lot of credit for keeping the Pacers in it and turning their season around. But at the same time, the Knicks were playing with fire even when they were in the driver's seat of this series, and the fact that almost every key player on their team sustained an injury throughout the series is ultimately the biggest reason why they are now going home. Jalen Brunson was dealing with an injured foot for most of the series, OG Anunoby started dealing with hamstring issues in the second half of the series and missed the last end of that series too. Josh Hart suffered an abdominal strain, and of course injuries are typically always freak accidents that are unavoidable, but the track record that Thibodeau has of overworking his players definitely needs to be examined here. Josh Hart played at least 42 minutes in every single playoff game this year until Game 4 of the series, which was a blowout, so he was subbed out early, and some games he didn't even sub out at all throughout. Jalen Brunson had a similar workload, as did Anunoby, and with their best chance of making a conference finals in 30 years now gone, Tibbs' unwillingness to trust his overall productive bench players more may have cost them in the long run, with these practices dating all the way back through the regular season as well. Now back over to the winners column, the next big winner of the second round this year is the Boston Celtics. The Celtics have been the best team in the NBA from the very beginning, so no one is really surprised at all that they are now advancing to the conference finals, but the biggest reason why they are one of the biggest winners of this round is because they have been blessed with arguably the easiest possible road to the NBA finals imaginable, and their path this year may prove to be one of the easiest paths to the finals the league has ever seen. This season has been a crazy postseason when it comes to the amount of big names getting injured this year, hampering their chances throughout, especially for teams in the Eastern Conference, and it has worked to the benefit of the Celtics more often than not. In round 1, they faced off with the Miami Heat without Jimmy Butler and Terry Rozier playing. In the second round, they played Cleveland without Jarrett Allen and having Donovan Mitchell miss an important game as well, and on the other side of the bracket, injuries have prevented the teams that would likely have posed an actual threat to them making runs. At full strength, I don't think it's a hot take to say that the Knicks, Bucks, and 76ers are all better teams than the Pacers, but all three of them had their best players suffer big injuries, and the Celtics don't have to play any of them en route to the NBA Finals, which is something that they will happily take all day long. Now back over to the loser column from the second round, we have Josh Giddey of the Oklahoma City Thunder. All off-court issues aside, Giddey saw his stock as a player take a hard dip in this series against the Dallas Mavericks, and it got to the point where he ended up losing his starting lineup spot, getting benched in games 5 and 6, and even before that, he was seeing his minutes reduced big time throughout the series. Giddey started every game of the season up until that point, but the fact that the Mavericks were able to quickly figure out that he was the weakest link and exploit him out there time and time again is just not a good look at all. And now the Thunder may be thinking to themselves that he is expendable as a piece to dangle on the trade block. Giddey's biggest strengths have always been his ability to control the tempo, make plays for his teammates as a passer, and push the play in transition, but his lack of confidence as a shooter results in defenses daring him to shoot wide open threes that he doesn't convert on nearly enough efficiency to justify, and with the ball needing to be in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's hands, even more important playoff action, he struggles to impact the game off the ball. The Thunder needed more shooters and more athletic defenders on the court, and Josh Giddey is neither of those things. Back over to the winners column from the second round, the next one on our list today is PJ Washington of the Dallas Mavericks. When Washington was traded to Dallas, the reviews amongst the general public were pretty mixed. Washington had spent his entire career in Charlotte to that point, serving as a solid role player, but he was an inconsistent shooter and his defense and ability to impact winning basketball clubs was still to be determined, because Charlotte as a whole were always a poor defensive group and never made any playoff noise either. However, PJ Washington has proven to be the exact breath of fresh air on the wing that the Mavericks needed to get themselves back on track, is proving to be the perfect two-way role player for them, and has even shown that he can take over a few games when needed, scoring over 20 points in 3 straight games this series, which played a huge part in the Mavericks bouncing back from their Game 1 loss. His ability to score in the post has also been a very pleasant surprise. He stays ready around the three-point line, spotting up to knock down threes, and I think he's opened a lot of eyes this series, showing the average fan just how useful he can be as a utility guy in a lineup. And finally, the last of the big losers this round that we have on our list today is Michael Porter Jr. of the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets are the defending champions, and Porter Jr. played a big role in that with his shooting. Nobody ever can take that away from him. However, the Nuggets were fully planning on repeating this year, and had the ammunition to do so. Porter Jr. just simply did not hold up his end of the bargain. He had 2 games scoring 20 or more points in this series, but all 5 other games this series, he scored in single digits, which for a player being paid a standard max contract strictly because of his shooting ability, it's just not good enough. All of the money that the team has tied up into him also limits their ability to make roster moves moving forward, so I wouldn't be surprised at all if they started scouring the trade market to see what they can get for him, because paying him $40 million in each of the next 2 seasons might turn into a Tobias Harris situation in Philadelphia. He doesn't pass the ball, he takes a lot of bad shots, and when the shot is not falling, he has a bad tendency to disappear, leaving Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic to do all of the heavy lifting. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below who you think the biggest winners and losers of this round are. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.